opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Well, good morning, CHD TV. It is Friday, May 15th, which is a good day. I love May. I love the weather, where I live in Redding, California. The climate's absolutely perfect. It's not hot yet. So I am wishing you a happy May 15th, and I am joined today with my amazing co-host down in the Southwest, Tommey. And Polly, what are things like in Austin right now? Have you been stung by any scorpions lately?
No, but I have seen scorpions. Good morning, everyone. But Austin is full of wildflowers right now. Utterly beautiful time of year to be here. So yeah,
Absolutely. Sorry about the scorpion comment. They're not that many, really.
I've seen them, but they tend to get squished around here. Sorry
Well,
for
that would be a good fate for a scorpion. So,
that.
so anyhow, we have a lot of different ground to cover today. There's so much going on in the media, their quest to marginalize Secretary Kennedy, marginalize anybody that would question the vaccines or safe, effective narrative. So what's new?
Exactly. Well, this is the show where I get to interview you, remember? So, first up is this article from the New York Times. Kennedy is driving a vast inquiry into vaccines despite his public silence. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has toned down his public criticism of vaccines under orders from the White House. But inside his department, a sprawling research effort is a top priority. What do you think about this article? First of all, we don't trust the New York Times as far as we can throw them.
To me, this is more of a hit piece as you read down through the article, talking about the debunked theory that mercury, a neurotoxin, could actually cause autism. So it's full of lies, but it's good news that Secretary Kennedy would be looking at the causes of autism, would be looking at vaccines and vaccine injuries in general, because this area of research has been fallow for many, many years. I've been investigating the CDC for the last 25 years, have looked at that history. They do not look at vaccine safety. So to finally have an HHS secretary that would examine the safety and efficacy of vaccines, it's really high time.
Yeah, and let's not forget that we know Secretary Kennedy, and he has seen the dead babies, the mothers of the dead babies. He's talked to them. He has seen the children killed by the MMR. He's talked to them. And the HPV Gardasil, I would say, he's pretty much an expert on. So he knows, does he not, that vaccines can and do kill and maim children, adults for life.
He knows this implicitly, and he studied it. Not only has he taken the time to interview families who have lost children, had the children die because of a vaccine injury, or have the child regress into autism or another neurodevelopmental disability, or have a lifetime of asthma, eczema. He's got two of his own children carry EpiPens. And, to me, when you look at those severe allergies, especially allergies to food like peanuts, those are born out of vaccines and vaccine injury. And so he, of all people, knows implicitly. He is also the most scientific non-scientist I've ever met. He reads and devours scientific papers. If he doesn't understand something in a scientific paper, he will call a scientist so he can get an explanation. And so, I feel very, very comfortable having him at the helm of this particular investigation. The New York Times may not like it, and the New York Times may find it salacious, but, again, it's high time that it was done.
Yeah, and it's no surprise to us that he would be looking into vaccines. Why would he not?
Well, we're in the middle of a chronic disease epidemic. And when you look at vaccinations in terms of triggers for chronic diseases, you find many, many components. Mercury, as of, a few months ago, was still in vaccines, flu vaccines given to pregnant women during any trimester of pregnancy. And the mercury selectively partitions, it goes selectively into the developing unborn child. And so we know that the baby is going to bear the brunt of that toxicity. I talked to women who never gave their child a vaccine, but were vaccinated during pregnancy. And one of the things that I hear consistently is, no, my child didn't regress. They just never developed normally. You hear that. And it is no wonder when you look at the components of vaccines, when you look at the flu shot that contained mercury, when you look at the Tdap that contained aluminum, those can be given together. And mercury and aluminum are synergistically toxic. So we have a generation of children, no, they didn't regress, but really because they were given autism in utero. So to continue this battle, Secretary Kennedy has now moved into HHS. I would expect nothing else.
Right, quite right. And so we're going to expect to see quite a lot more of these hit pieces on Kennedy as he progresses on fighting the vaccine war for us. That's what we're anticipating.
Exactly. We will see more and more hit pieces, and we will see sloppy reporting where individuals will say, oh, well, this theory was debunked, in the early 2000s by so-and-so, and find out that, they never really read the paper. When you say that the vaccine autism theory has been debunked, you're really showing your ignorance, because the majority of the vaccination schedule has never been studied for autism prevalence, autism incidence. You can't just take the MMR and then thimerosal. Oh, we studied those with a bunch of fraudulent studies. Wave your magic wand and make it go away. It does not go away. Looking into vaccines and autism, again, it's high time that it's done. I'm hoping that they will come out with the results of this investigation soon, so we can get on with healing children. We can get on with compensating families that sustain vaccine injuries, like your family, like my family. The government made this mess. The government needs to clean up this mess.
Amen to that. All right, now talking of debunked, let's move on to Poul Thorson, the man who said that vaccines are safe and effective. We've got nothing to worry about. But actually, let's go back a bit for our viewers. Can you tell people who Poul Thorson is and what the deal is here?
Poul Thorson was a visiting scientist at the CDC starting in 1999. He visited the CDC, actually had a 3-year appointment, and his task was to show that vaccines don't cause autism. I mean, underlying all of his research was not only to show that vaccines don't cause autism, but to lay the blame somewhere else. So it was old dads with old sperm, or it was fat parents, or it was psychotic moms, anything. And so Thorson published a series of publications starting in 2002 all the way to 2009 to provide cover for the vaccination program. While he was doing this, Polly, he received $11 million in 2 different grants from the CDC. Starting in 2002, those grants moved to his university, Aarhus University in Denmark. And so he spent $11 million building this, illustrious institute called NANIA, the North Atlantic Neuroepidemiological Alliance. And during that particular time, starting in 2002, he was funneling money into his personal account in the CDC credit union, and he stole over $1 million worth of CDC funds, used it for his personal purposes, and then he money laundered it by buying a house in Atlanta, buying a car in Atlanta, buying a Harley Davidson, and he has been indicted on, I believe the total is 22 different counts. That shows count 1 through 13 of wire fraud, but there's another series of accounts showing money laundering associated with embezzling those funds. So he is a crook through and through. All of his papers should be retracted, and all of the research should be revisited.
So he ran, did he? He ran
Yes.
the country, and he managed to get out, and there he lived.
He lived in Denmark. Really, he had a joint appointment at Drexel University starting in 2009. He lost that appointment in 2010, and then he stayed at Aarhus University for a period of time. But he then moved to a different hospital. The name of the hospital escaped me, in northern Denmark. And he hid out from the government, really in plain sight, because the previous administrations would not extradite him, would not, enforce the extradition treaty. Denmark would not honor the extradition treaty. And so between 2011, after this federal indictment was made, all the way to 2025, he was hiding in plain sight in Denmark.
All right. So who's bringing him back?
The extradition was made by Department of Justice head Attorney General Pam Bondi. And then this was done, I think, with cooperation of Secretary Kennedy. There was a way to lure Dr. Thorson into Germany by, inviting him to attend a conference and to present at a conference in Germany. Once he was in Germany, then the Germans were honoring the extradition treaty, and he was extradited. He was held in Germany, I think, starting in January of 2025. And then finally he was extradited, brought to Atlanta over the weekend, over this last weekend. It's Tuesday now. And so he will face his charges in court in Atlanta Superior Court. I think it's a federal court, it's federal crime. And this should be happening anytime he will face these. But he is in U.S. Jurisdiction. He is in custody by the Department of Justice right now.
Do you think we'll be able to live stream that? Will it be public?
My hope is that they will make all of this public, and my hope is that he will be charged and he will be convicted of these crimes. What he did is as plain as the nose on my face, and he also needs to start to tell the story of the fraudulent papers, the story of those co-conspirators, primarily Dr. Diana Schendel, who was his supervisor and his lover at the CDC from, I believe, 2001 all the way to 2009. Okay. And she is now has a joint appointment at Drexel University as the head of their autism program. It's an affront. I mean, what a stench in our nostrils that they would take, Poul Thorson's gun mall. This woman who helped him spend this money approved all of his invoices. I mean, if they weren't in cahoots, then, I'm Mickey Mouse. They were acting together. She needs to be brought up on the same criminal charges as Thorson. She has a joint appointment with Drexel University in Philadelphia, and then also Aarhus University in Denmark. And so you can see the writing on the wall. I mean, as soon as the heat comes, as soon as Thorson starts singing like a bird, which I believe he will, once he is questioned in U.S. custody, then she's going to flee to Denmark. So I think that they need to, I want to get this out here, and I hope that officials listen to this in some way, shape, or form, so they can start to monitor Diana Schendel's activities, because she set the thing up so she has a cushy job in Denmark. She can leave. They will not honor the extradition treaty, and so she needs to be apprehended while she's still in the United States. Sorry. That is as clear as day.
Why wouldn't the last administration extradite him? What's the deal there? It makes them sound fishy.
They do not want to do anything that is going to besmirch the beloved CDC vaccination program, or shine light on the autism epidemic, or shine light on the fact that these publications are fraudulent. The two major publications that Thorson put out, one came out in 2002 regarding the MMR vaccine. Another came out in 2003 regarding thimerosal-containing vaccines, are not only flawed, but they're fraudulent. There are simple arithmetic errors where they fudge the numbers in the 2002 paper. Karl Jablanowski and I wrote about this in the journal Integrative Medicine in 2025. We went back and we re-reviewed the article in 2025. And then I wrote a paper way back in 2004 regarding the thimerosal paper that Thorson came up with fraudulently, and we showed how they fudged the numbers there. In both cases, they committed fraud. And it's very, very plain to see that they committed fraud. These papers need to be retracted. The thimerosal paper was in pediatrics, and the MMR paper was in the New England Journal of Medicine, but yet they have fatal flaws in them. They didn't prove anything regarding autism causation, except for that the jury was still out. They still needed to do more research.
So will you keep us updated as things happen on CHD TV?
Absolutely. You know, this is something that I've studied for the last 25 years. One of my first FOIA requests in 2004 was for information regarding Poul Thorson, because we knew that he was a bad actor then. It was no surprise when the federal indictment came down. And yes, so I will keep you completely updated on what's going on with Poul Thorson. And, you know, I've even made an appeal to the authorities. You know, I've got thousands and thousands of pages of incriminating information for Poul Thorson. So, you know, if you want to see the veracity of his science, there was none. If you want to see the integrity of his science, there was none. Come and talk to me.
All right. Brilliant. Thank you. All right, let's talk sad news. Bill Posey, giant of a man, former lawmaker and informed consent advocate. Bill Posey dies at 78. He was an amazing man. I did get to meet him. He was in Vax 1, the first Vax film. Very, very good man, and very sad that he's died.
Extremely conscientious, extremely integrous man who took on the whole issue of the CDC whistleblower. Before the whistleblower became public, I reached out to Bill Posey directly, and I reached out to his chief of staff, who's a wonderful hero in our movement, Stuart Burns. And we arranged for whistleblower protection, federal whistleblower protection, through Representative Posey's office. Representative Posey was there every step of the way. He met with me personally. We went to DC. I did not go directly with the whistleblower, but I did go to DC and sit down and meet with him personally. Every chance that he would bring this up. He was not a committee chair, so he did not have the power to subpoena William Thompson and bring him before Congress. But every chance he had, he would call for that subpoena. And he did very publicly. There's public testimony from June 29th, 2015, where he called for it directly on the House floor. Not only that, but he looked out for us, and he was investigating the CDC for malfeasance. He helped us obtain documents. And really, from the time that he took that position, I believe in 2012, when Dave Weldon retired, and until the time he retired from Congress, this was one of his main issues. He was a champion for the children. He gave us a chance. He gave us a shot. And so, you know, I honor him in death. He knew Jesus. He knows Jesus in an intimate way that he never knew Jesus before, because he's right at the throne room of God right now. And so I'm happy for him. Heaven's gain is our loss.
That's right. He was a good, good man. Children's Health Defense Science Department, newest paper. What have you got for us?
We have published a paper on mitochondrial autism and vaccine components that cause it. Okay, so mitochondrial autism really affects, I'd say, almost 50% of those children that are classified as having profound or level 4 autism have some type of mitochondrial disorder. About 5 to 10% of them have been diagnosed with mitochondrial, pure mitochondrial dysfunction, including my son. My son was, we did a muscle biopsy in 2010, and he was shown to be missing part of his electron transport chain, so he cannot produce the ATP. He showed also mitochondrial damage. in the muscle tissue biopsy that we did in him. But many, many children have at least some type of mitochondrial disorder, mitochondrial dysfunction. And like I said, I think upwards to 50% of profound autism. Well, mitochondria are damaged by vaccine components. You look at polysorbate 80, a detergent, that causes mitochondrial membranes to disrupt and mitochondria to depolarize. Once they depolarize, they start to leak ATP. And once they leak ATP, then that causes a damage-associated neuroimmune response. So the immune system starts to attack the mitochondria. It starts to try to clean up the damage. And in that, you get slipping through autoimmunity in the brain, in brain function. We know that there is damage consistent in the brain to this particular disorder. And so in this paper, what we did was we broke down the components of vaccines that can cause this. We broke down then the mechanisms by which they cause mitochondrial dysfunction, and then we linked mitochondrial dysfunction directly to the autistic disorder. So we took all the links in the chain that go from vaccine components to autism, and we connected those in the chain in this review article. So I'm really excited about it. I hope that people will read it, they will download it, and we are in the process of publishing this in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, PubMed Index peer-reviewed scientific journal. Right now, this is a preprint, so you're getting a preview of what this is going to look like once it's fully published.
And does it get into the right hands of people who can actually do something about it? The people at the CDC, the HHS? I mean, how do you...
Yes.
Yes, okay.
We make sure that this information gets to the right hands. Now, their hands are tied until this is a peer-reviewed publication. So, we do not pull that trigger until it's peer-reviewed and they can say this is rock solid science. It's been approved by scientific peers. And so then they can start to form policy and take action around this. We really, again, we did a review paper in January, released it at the end of January on aluminum. This is another paper that implicates aluminum adjuvants as being neurotoxic. They are neurotoxins, and they can directly transport into the brain where they cause damage. They cause damage to a cell type called astrocytes. The astrocytes break apart, and that is consistent with the physiology of autism that has been seen in cadaver studies, where they've looked at the brains of autistic cadavers versus neurotypical cadavers, and they see this very, very signature damage in the autistic individuals. You can trace that back to the aluminum adjuvants that are in vaccines.
Yeah, they still say they're safe and effective. And when this comes out, they're still going to attack you and say they're safe and effective, because this is a massive war, good and evil.
Right.
Ultimately.
Well, aluminum is used in so many different vaccines, and it's been used since the 1920s. They've started putting aluminum salt adjuvants, basically alum, which is aluminum sulfate, in vaccines in the 1920s. And really, when this goes down, the entire vaccination construct collapses, because they've used adjuvants in order to make vaccines cheaper. They call these adjuvants in the CDC. Julie Gerberding used to call it hamburger helper. I mean, we've got her on record as saying, "Oh, well, it's like hamburger helper. It makes the antigen that's in the vaccine, it makes it go further, so you can make the vaccine cheaper." Well, stop it. Just stop doing that. Don't try to come up with an alternative adjuvant. Let's just step back at this whole thing, look at it scientifically, and then decide, okay, are we going to continue to vaccinate individuals? Are we going to stop vaccinating individuals? Is there some type of policy decision that you can make, that you can flag individuals like Billy Tommey and Stephen Hooker that are susceptible to vaccine injury? What are you going to do? So, we leave the science in the hands of the policymakers. We can recommend policy decisions, but, when we look at this, we tie it to autism, and it is neurotoxic.
Brilliant, sterling work from Children's Health Science Department. Okay, we've only got a few minutes left, and I'm sorry about this because we really want to hear about you testifying in Italian Parliament on the COVID Commission. You've been away for I don't know, a couple of weeks, I think. Tell us about it.
We were in Europe for 2 weeks. We have wonderful hosts that helped us out with venues in Italy, Brussels, France, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and we did all that in 2 weeks. One of the highlights of the event was there's a COVID commission that's similar to the COVID commission in the United States Congress, but the Italian Congress, the Italian Parliament, they have a House of Senators and then they have a House of Deputies. So this is bicameral. It's both of those houses coming together. And Mary and I had the opportunity to each provide 15 minutes of testimony on the United States COVID response, regarding vaccinations, regarding lockdowns, regarding other countermeasures, regarding 6 feet social distancing, somehow magically preventing COVID from spreading in enclosed buildings. And we were able to talk about that. And we actually had one of the Italian deputies, Dr. Zambito, I believe is her name. She called us anti-vaxxers, she called us anti-science, and she said that she was leaving because it was fake news, that it was an invalid hearing because we were fake scientists and fake advocates. So she stormed out with a lot of bravado. And as she stormed out, I think she said in Italian, "Call ICE," as if they were going to call the Italian equivalent of ICE to get us removed from the country. It was very, very dramatic.
So it makes me laugh, these people, because they always do this. They scream at us anti-vaxxers and then they run away. Well, come back and talk to us about it. Why do you think we're anti-vaxxers? Why do you think we're anti-science, or whatever it is? And by the way, for all those screaming at me now saying, why aren't you an anti-vaxxer? We are ex-vaxxers. We vaccinated and we will never vaccinate again. But anyway, why did she run away?
She ran away really because she had no answers and she had no solutions. Our testimonies were submitted to the committee. They saw all the information prior to us sitting down and testifying. So you know what? If she could have picked apart what we said, then she would have stayed. But I'm sure shooting. The reason why she left is because she did not have a leg to stand on. Lockdowns were a myth. Italy was the worst country in the EU as far as draconian measures like lockdowns. They locked down before anybody else, and their lockdowns were of the longest duration. These people went through hell for no reason. And the cumulative effect of lockdowns and vaccines is that they killed way, way more people than COVID ever killed.
All right, so talk us about your whole trip. So are you seeing the same things out there as you're seeing here in America? Are the unvaccinated healthier in Europe? Are there injury and death like we're seeing here? What are you seeing?
It was funny because we encountered a little boy that got chickenpox, an unvaccinated child who was recovering from chickenpox. He was the picture of health. Oh my goodness. And, thinking about the natural immunity that he gained, from having chickenpox. And we also went to different individuals, different countries, different venues, and we always heard about the health of the unvaccinated. We had hosts and host families that had recovered children with autism. That they had recovered. They were no longer vaccinating those children. Those children were just as healthy as possible. The other thing that we saw was a real need and an outcry for spellers in these countries. They really want to know more about any type of spelling to communicate modality, whether it's RPM. I talked to the lone RPM provider in Brussels. There's only one for the entire country. There's only 2 in France. And, I actually saw one of the spellers in action. One of our hosts actually invited us into their home, and we saw, their little son. He's 17 years old. That's not little Brian, but we saw him spell, and we saw him in action. And that, it does so good to see, a child that's been locked in their body, hasn't had the ability to communicate. Now they're able to communicate openly. So we saw a real strong cry for that, as well as reports over and over and over again, health of the unvaccinated.
Yeah, that's amazing. We were so delighted on Wednesday to have Cade Larson on spelling for us and talking to us. So we've got to get spellers for everybody.
He is such a wonderful guy. He's such a wonderful advocate. He's doing amazing work.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that's our show up for this week. But I love interviewing you, so get me back on again.
We need to do this more. You will be back on again, and everybody have a wonderful Friday. Go outdoors, get your vitamin D, and enjoy the scenery.
We are live. Can you tell everyone your name?
I'm Heather Berman.
And Heather, what do you do for a living? What did you do?
I was kind of forced into retirement because of my injury. I was injured by the tetanus diphtheria booster, which I suspect, as a child I had many of them. But this booster sent me into MS, and I was injured. And so
How long ago did you have that?
2017, right here in Boca at an urgent care.
And why did you get it?
At the time, I was selling perfume at the mall, and I picked up a bottle, and shards of glass went into my finger. And I went to the urgent care because it was swelling up like crazy, and the first thing they do is give you a tetanus shot. And I had been educated on holistic health because I had a cancer scare previously. I knew all about holistics, but I didn't know about vaccines. Nothing in my research came up about vaccines. I find that it's unbelievable.
So you probably had a Tdap rather than a DTaP because the Tdap's for the adults.
Yes, exactly, exactly, yes.
So you get the shot, and what happens to you afterwards?
Well, within that week, I was feeling numb, and I was realizing my legs weren't working as I was trying to walk because I lived near where I was working and I would walk. And I'm like, why aren't my legs working? Then I started bumping into things. Then I noticed my eyesight was blurred. Then I noticed I was exhausted. We are talking beyond exhausted. We're not talking regular exhausted from working a lot. We're talking can't function, can't focus. And at the time, I was trying to get back down to Miami to do a similar job at a different place, and I was interviewing. And it dawned on me, I can't do this job anymore. I can't stand anymore. I can't think straight. There's something seriously wrong with me. And I had a whole career as a dancer and actor, a singer. So I was used to being really physical and in shape and my brain working really well. Well, all of that, I couldn't even focus. I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. I was like, I've never felt like this in my life. What is wrong with me?
At this point, did you realize it was from the shot?
No.
Okay.
It took me almost a year to realize. And how did I do that? Well, I went back to New York. I went to a doctor that helps dancers. He goes, Heather, this isn't your bones. I'm sending you to a neurologist. So that's when the MRIs started, the blood work to roll out things. You know how they roll out to try to figure out. And it wasn't until like the end of November, that was like springtime, end of November, after they did all these testing, neurologic, he goes, you have MS. They can see the scars like in your brain. And by that time, I wasn't doing any holistics. I wasn't changing my diet. I was trying to pretend like it wasn't real, to be honest with you.
Did you know even
because
what MS was?
Because I was scuffling. I'm scuffling like an old lady. I could barely walk.
Did you understand what MS was when they told you that?
No.
So tell people what it actually is.
Okay, well, I'm half numb from the waist down. So I got to be honest with you. I figured out that I was half numb because I couldn't feel even my private parts correctly. I was like, I'm not feeling correctly here. Something's different, right? And then scuffling my legs, I couldn't really move my legs right. And I'm a dancer. Even though I'm an older person and I wasn't pursuing, Broadway anymore, I was still somebody who went out salsa dancing. I had been on salsa dancing a month prior. And I could still wear like a 2-inch heel, 2.5 inch, without a problem. I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my feet. My brain wasn't working right. And after that year, I was trying to still work and I collapsed on the floor. I literally collapsed on the floor at my friend's house, crying in dire pain.
So what did the doctors tell you that you should do?
Well, when I first went to the MS doctor at NYU in New York, he said, it's so clear that you have MS, I really don't need to do the lumbar puncture, right? And thank God I didn't let him do it. And then of course, there's other issues, that you have. Like, you have to really look at the person. Are you going to give them this drug? Is it even going to work? I wouldn't have taken any drug. So then what happened was I did a Google search the next year. How do you get MS? Boom. What do you think pops up?
Vaccines?
Tetanus. It pops up. Because guess what?
Tetanus.
It is one of the tetanus shot. The vaccine is one of the top. MS is one of the side effects. Right at the top. And my jaw, I went, oh my God. Wow. And it took that whole year for me to find that out. So that was 2017. It was 2018 when I realized.
Well, so we're seeing...
Because you have to remember, I was an athlete. I was a dancer. I ate healthy. I didn't take any flu shots. I didn't take any HPV. None of that. I worked out. I was like, a physical person.
But we are seeing multiple sclerosis coming up in the young after the COVID shots now.
Yes.
So it's not just tetanus.
That's correct. My personal opinion, all of these vaccines, after all these years, they have many neurological side effects. And MS is just a name for one of them. Because they see scars. They call it multiple scars, multiple sclerosis, right? But there are so many people. I'm in a group on Facebook where every day I go in there, somebody's saying they're in the process of being diagnosed.
And what age groups are you seeing?
It's everything from 20s to 60s. There's people that have been diagnosed from a long, long time ago who are trying to help people who are recently diagnosed. I mean, yeah, it's neurological. And sometimes it's not MS, but it's still, they're damaged. I'm damaged. I'm injured.
Are you getting better in any way, shape, or form?
Well, the thing about me is I've done only holistics to try to mitigate. But it's a daily mitigation. You eat one bad thing, like could be gluten or dairy, anything that's inflammatory can make symptoms worse. There is never a day that I'm not dealing with symptoms. Never. A day does not exist. It takes me hours to get ready. Sometimes I'm looking at makeup going, my mind is going, okay, I need to put this on, but my hands are going, oh. It's the weirdest, strangest illness. Your brain is not connected to your body. My doctor explained, because of the scars, the synapses, and then the pain. You get a lot of pain, constant pain, but because I'm mitigating doing an anti-inflammatory diet, I can keep a lot of that hardcore pain that was at the beginning. At the beginning, it was knives in my head, knives in my feet. I'd be walking, it felt like I was walking on rocks all of the time. So I've done everything. I've done acupuncture, homeopathy I did for 3.5 years, different ones. I've broken my toe since I moved to Florida a year ago. I just banged it the other day because I get out of bed and I don't feel my feet. I don't know where they are. It happens all the time. I've fallen 3 times here, banged myself all up, bruises everywhere. I use arnica. And there are many things out there that I can't afford. I can't afford to do stem cells that cost $10,000. And I was a dancer. I was a rockette. I'm a former rockette. I was a real good dancer. And even though I wasn't pursuing rockettes, of course, at my age, I was still, kind of competing in the acting world and teaching dance and having fun, going out salsa dancing. I have to rethink everything in my life. I'm like, oh, can I do that? And when I try to salsa dance, it's scary because I could fall. Somebody spins me the wrong way and I don't get my balance and I could end up on the floor. And think about how that is to live your life that way when that was like your passion.
It's horrific, and terrific for you, but I just think also of the young that have been
And now,
diagnosed.
of course, yes, and I got on the streets in New York to warn people. I warned my friends. They all know that I have MS. Do they believe it was from the TB, tetanus diphtheria booster? Probably not. I warned them. Did they listen to me? No. I put it all over social media. I got on the streets. I spoke at rallies. You know, I was even the MC. I helped CHD with many rallies, organized them. You know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was, you know, there when I MC'd, and Mary and John Gilmore. You know, I really wanted to warn people, and people appreciated it. I believe I saved some people. I really do. I thought if I saved one person, I did my job. I never stopped talking about it.
What is your advice to people that have just got the diagnosis? It must be extremely frightening.
It's very frightening.
And mentally really hard to cope with. Again, I go for the young right now.
Yes.
Because I know some 20-year-olds that are in England that they've just been diagnosed with that.
Yeah, and some people, of course, are worse than me because a lot of them have opted to do these drugs. So what do I say to them? Drugs are what got you in this place. What do you think is going to get you out of this place? Real health. I believe I can heal. I know that I'm a little better than I was. I don't have, like, you know, that hard stabbing pain all the time. But, you know, sometimes I wake up and all of a sudden I have a Charlie horse so bad that I'm screaming, like holding my leg. And what is it? I don't know. I take magnesium. You know, you try to mitigate. You try to do all these things that they tell you to do. But you're human too. You know? You don't always know what's going to do it.
No. Is
Or
there any...
cause a symptom. Or, you know, where I'm walking down the street and there's a lip on the sidewalk and I go flying.
And you're done with vaccinations now?
Oh my God. Like, what's so crazy is I would never get the flu shot. I would never get these other things. But I really believe that idea that they scared you. You're going to get polio. You're going to get lockjaw. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like weird, like folklore that we're born with. And I never had children. I was never going, you know, I never was like in a situation where I had to do the research. So I didn't know about vaccines. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My younger sister has a child. She did some research about it, but I remember her talking about it. She was spreading them out, you know, but now, of course, she knows everything and would never have done any of them. Yeah. She didn't even know everything. So I feel like this is hidden. It's so hidden. People don't have the research. And when I try to talk to really good friends about it, they can't hear me. Do you understand how frustrating that is when you're trying to warn people? Just today, I was telling a girlfriend, you got lucky. You got lucky. You took those shots. You got lucky. You don't know. There's different varying degrees of how strong they are. They're not all the ones that killed everybody, because if everybody died at once, then what? Then what? They'd really be in trouble. So you couldn't possibly knock everybody out all at once.
So just to say to our viewers that this is why we love doing what we do here on the bus, is because we get these amazing opinions of people who have lived it, but always they're not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defence, and we're definitely not giving out medical advice.
And I'm not giving it out either. I'm just telling you what I do. You can do whatever the heck you want to do, but my life is about holistics and God, because guess what? God can heal me tomorrow if He wanted to.
Amen to that.
And you know what? Here I am. I'm saying the most important thing I'm going to say to your audience, from my opinion, is God. The most important. You don't heal because you have money, because you can get the most expensive supplements. You heal because you believe you can heal. That's how you heal. Every day I have to suffer with this. And if there's anybody out there listening to me right now, get God to be your best friend. And He will help you. He will guide you. You don't have to be a millionaire to heal. And seek joy every day. I was living in New York City going, how the heck am I ever going to move to Florida? And I moved to Florida a year ago. He got me here. Is everything perfect? No, life isn't perfect. But he got me here. And I had to come up here and be, in this, and tell this story. It is very important.
It is, and you're warning as well, the people, and we appreciate that greatly. And we're truly sorry that you got injured, deceived.
Yeah, deceived. Because think about it, they didn't say, oh, by the way, these are the side effects. Everybody deserves to know these are the side effects of this drug or this injection. And then you make a decision. Are you gonna, chance that? Because they know how many people have been injured from these tetanus shots or other shots. They have the information.
Thank you so much for sitting here, for driving so far, because I know it's hard for you.
Oh, I train and bus and all that because I don't really feel comfortable. I still have sort of my vision is not great. So, yeah, I feel more comfortable to just do public transportation. I'm a New Yorker, I wasn't born in New York, but I lived in New York a long time. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being here and for the warning to people. We're sorry for your injury.
Yeah, but I want people to know that, if they tell another person and another person tells another person and we keep at it, we're going to, there's less parents getting them for their children now.
Oh, yeah.
To me, the goal is the entire thing collapses. That's what the goal is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
46% of the American people say mandates are dangerous, they're damaging, and vaccine science isn't settled.
A steady decline of childhood vaccine rates.
Vaccination rates continued to decline last year.
There's a discourse about vaccines that didn't exist before.
Children's Health Defense.
Children's Health Defense.
Children's Health Defense.
Children's Health Defense.
Children's Health Defense is the leader in the health freedom movement.
The Department of Health and Human Services is overhauling the immunization schedule.
Now only recommending 11.
We are making recommendations that are science-based, that are common sense.
Secretary Hegseth, discarding the mandatory flu vaccine requirement.
Your body, your faith, and your convictions are not negotiable.
People recognize you have to be able to make an individualized decision.
For the first time, the U.S. FDA will acknowledge that COVID-19 vaccines killed American children.
States are putting in place medical freedom laws. There's bills in Congress that Children's Health Defense is supporting, the GRACE Act for the right to religious exemptions, the End the Vaccine Carve-Out, ending liability protection, and Tom Massey's bill to repeal the PrEP Act.
One of the most aggressive medical accountability lawsuits in decades.
Suing the American Academy of Pediatrics.
CHD is suing under RICO laws, claiming that the AAP operates as a criminal enterprise and has for decades.
A federal judge yesterday blocked Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s recent overhaul of the nation's childhood vaccine schedule.
They basically just froze all vaccine policy.
The American Academy of Pediatrics and other medical groups filed a lawsuit arguing the vaccine changes violated federal law.
Which is outrageous for a single judge sitting in Boston to stop any work at the Centers for Disease Control related to vaccines.
These this conflict between medical freedom and medical coercion. It's a fundamental conflict that we must resolve now in favor of medical freedom or forever be truly slaves to medical tyranny.
I am so glad that there are people like you who are still fighting this.
Children's Health Defense. If you don't know what they do, folks, look it up.
We have got to, as a society, global, decide, is medical coercion okay, or do you have a right to decide what happens to your body?
The incredible service members.
And we owe you our freedom.
The Pentagon is going to require vaccines for all service members.
I'm asking the Defense Department to look into how and when they will add COVID-19 to the list of vaccinations our armed forces must get.
Leaders did everything legal or illegal within their power to coerce and influence their service members to get the shot.
Her son and 9 other Marines were being held in confinement in the brig until they got vaccinated.
If you don't do what they tell you to do, they will ostracize you. They will destroy your life.
8,000 well-trained men and women were fired.
I lost my ability to feed my family.
I mean, I'm being told you're getting dishonorably discharged.
You cannot mandate an experimental medical product on military members.
The impact is really on the entire nation.
I had a battalion commander come to me and she said, "Dear God, we're killing our own soldiers."
When we talk about orders that are unlawful, now there is a duty to disobey.
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.